that's what they're putting it over as. And I think it's just WWE desperately trying to create something and crying out to create reality television off the success of shows like Total Divas, Tough Enough, and Breaking Ground, which is one of their latest ones to attempt to create reality television off of. Again, I'm not expecting any of Torres and Ashley Massaro or Christy Hemme, who was the inaugural winner in the inception of the Diva Search in 2004. It was a concept that was premiered by Vince McMahon. The $250,000 Diva Search was debuted in 2004, and we had everybody try a hand in the 2004 Diva Search, like Amy Weber, who I was a huge fan of. Had the opportunity to sit down with her for an exclusive interview. I was also a really big fan of people like Joy Giovanni, who came from that Diva Search as well. Had a chance to sit down and interview her in an exclusive interview that went all over the place. I think that there was a lot of drama, too, from the original Diva Searches that made the original Diva Searches stand out more than the Diva Search from 2015 or the Diva Searches we have seen over the last number of years. The Diva Search definitely took a reprieve from television for a number of years and then was brought back time and time again, came in, came out all the time. But I think the drama that existed between the Divas, the real-life drama on the reality series, the Diva Search, really is what made it stand out. In 2004 especially, from documenting it and having interviewed a lot of members of the cast of the Diva Search from 2004, there was a lot of drama, a lot of backstage drama, a lot of people really didn't get a chance to actually take a look at. And I think that from getting a chance to take a look at the backstage drama that existed between divas like Joy Giovanni and Amy Weber, which was hardly ever referenced or documented for wrestling fans, I think that's really what made the Diva Search stand out, just getting a chance to hear the experience of working with WWE backstage and what it was like, trying to coexist between the divas in the locker room. It was really interesting for me getting a chance to go behind the scenes and document that for everybody, and I wish I could do it all over again. If I had my time back, I wouldn't have changed anything about it. Because there was so much that went on behind the scenes of the Diva Search that wrestling fans were not exposed to and weren't meant to be exposed to, and I think that was the most interesting thing about Diva Searchers from 04 and 05. By 2006 and 2007, we had the debuts of WWE Divas like Jessica Hatch, who I thought was a surefire individual to win. The Diva Search was really expecting big things from her, and WWE to utilize her character, especially after interviews I had caught on .com with her. I had a chance to speak with her in a couple of email messages. Very down-to-earth individual, was really high on her, and I don't know why WWE chose the likes of Eve Torres over someone like Jessica Hatch. Maybe because they thought they could create a better Divas champion out of her than what they could have hatched because of her athletic ability, and I think she was a 2-time or 3-time Divas champion because of that decision by the judges by 2007. If you notice anything about the quote that I've thrown up in this video on my channel at Jonathan Clarke 22, I referred to this Diva Search as the worst Diva Search I have seen since at least 2007, and I stand to that claim because it really is. It's the worst Diva Search I've seen in the better part of the last 7 through 8 years, the better part of the last decade, because I remember the Diva Search for giving us so many unbelievable divas like Christy Hemme, Joy Giovanni, Amy Weber, divas that I remember from about 10 years ago, and what a difference 10 or 11 years makes, because they're not creating stars like Joy Giovanni or Amy Weber anymore. They are far and in between, and they are definitely one in a million. People like Christy Hemme, they could have done so much with her in the WWE, but I guess because of animosity towards the way WWE had treated her, she doesn't want anything to do with that. She's claimed she's never going back to WWE and going to be remaining with wrestling organizations like TNA to try to make a name for herself, and obviously a lot of people are supporting Christy Hemme finding time and doing that. I can't say that I blame Christy Hemme for making that decision. It was based on how WWE had treated her. I got that from her feud with Melina, that she had so much potential when they were feuding with Animal and Heidenreich and Eminem, and they took Christy Hemme and teamed her up with Animal and Heidenreich, their version of Legion of Doom by the early thousands, putting them up against Eminem, and they put Christy Hemme and Melina in a program. I thought they could have done so much with Christy Hemme. Her possibilities were literally endless, and I was expecting really big things to come from her, and I was disappointed that WWE didn't utilize her to her fullest potential like they did in Eve by 2007, 2008, less than a year into Eve's WWE Diva career. She was a valet, she was a wrestler, she had so many different aspects examined with her career. It was almost like they were testing the waters for Eve Torres. And once they got enough confidence to have her sail on her own, they gave her several Divas Championship reigns, which really amounted to the heights of unprecedentedness. And I think that she eventually, after learning crap for so many years, wanted to use that experience to teach divas of the upcoming roster like Caitlyn, to give them, to pave the way for their successes. And that program between Caitlyn and Eve Torres was a huge example of that. I wouldn't have as much of an issue with the 2015 Diva Search if the 2015 Diva Search could promise us that they were going to create more than one diva and more than one superstar out of this year's Diva Search, but I don't see that. From the Diva Search. I found time in criticizing the Diva Search back in 2004, 2005. One of the few things that I found time in criticizing was the fact that The Miz was actually given the role of the host of the Diva Search, because the Diva Search was filled with so much potential. When you talked about the contestants like Christy Hemme, Amy Weber, Joy Giovanni, whoever you were giving time to reference from the Diva Search, they had so much potential. And now when you compare the potential of 2015's Diva Search to the potential of maybe 10 years ago, what a difference 10 years makes, because there's not as much potential coming from these contestants we are seeing on the WWE Network. We don't have as many personalities involved as hosts or hostess of the Diva Search, and in my opinion, there's a lot of room for improvement for the 2015 Diva Search, improvement that we will probably never get to a point of having seen as wrestling fans. And improvement, what really gets me about this is that it's improvement that we want to see as wrestling fans, and WWE just ignore how there's room for improvement with things like the Diva Search and Tough Enough all the time. And that's why I think we choose to come down harder on reality shows like Tough Enough and the Diva Search, because of just how much room there is for criticism, rather than putting over a reality show like Tough Enough or the Diva Search. And who can blame me for feeling this way? I'm sure I'm not the only one, and I think I can go on record for saying that I'm not the only one who feels the same way about reality shows like the Diva Search and Tough Enough, because there's a long way for these reality shows to come, especially when you're trying to reintroduce these reality shows to an audience that's not familiar or become familiarized with shows like the Diva Search or Tough Enough from about 10 years ago. People like me remember the Diva Search and remember Tough Enough for what they used to be, and that's why more people are finding time to come down on things like the Diva Search and Tough Enough, because they remember what these reality shows used to be when they were exclusive to networks, like MTV and USA back in the day, and they were being put over to the heights of unbelievableness, and they were having their potential recognized, especially when you were trying to choose a winner of Tough Enough, which sometimes was really difficult because you had so many contestants with so much potential, especially in 2004 when you were distributing talents like Daniel Puder and Mike Mizanin. And when you were talking about the Diva Search, you were distributing talents like Christy Hemme and Joy Giovanni. It was really difficult on times to choose a definite winner of a reality contest like the Diva Search, especially when you're going to be handing out a check for over $250,000, which says a lot. And I think that because of that, that's why WWE are now finding it very difficult to distribute something like the Diva Search, because they know there are those diehard fans out there that remember the Diva Search from 10 years ago and find time in criticizing it. And if you're someone who finds time in criticizing the Diva Search, I can't say that I blame you, because I'm like all of you. I'm in that same category. I remember the Diva Search from 10 years ago. I remember what the Diva Search meant to the wrestling business, and that's why I've chosen to come down really hard on the Diva Search. I wish that I didn't have to have time to come down on the Diva Search, because I was a huge fan of the Diva Searches, especially from 2004, 2005. By 2005, when they introduced us to Ashley Massaro and her potential as both a wrestler and a diva, I said, this is awesome. She's definitely going to go places. And where is she now? She's in New York. Nobody knows where Ashley Massaro is, but she has a daughter that she's trying to desperately raise in this very difficult world. In my opinion, she could have went the distance with WWE. She was someone who you could easily got 10 years out of. And there are so many divas that you could get 10 years out of from this Diva Search in 2015. It's just WWE go without recognizing their potential, and they're just there as contestants just to try to make you guess on who actually has a chance of coming through on the Diva Search and actually winning. That's the thing that gets me about these Diva Searches and these reality contests all the time. You have so much people with potential on these shows as contestants, but they're almost like they're just there. It's not like it was 10 years ago when they actually had a chance of winning it, and these reality shows kept you guessing as to who could come away as the number one or the runner-up. There was so much unpredictability associated with something like the Diva Search, and that's not there anymore. And as a result of it not being there anymore, I think the viewership is down for things like Tough Enough and the Diva Search, but that's things that WWE are obviously never going to admit to and continuously keep on kayfabing, because they don't want to admit to their low ratings for Tough Enough because of trainers like Daniel Bryan, Chris Jericho, Paige, who are trying desperately to get the ratings up all the time of these shows, but are desperately failing because we'd rather be seeing someone like Chris Jericho wrestling all the time in a program against the Wyatt family rather than being a trainer or a coach, call them what you wish, for Tough Enough. And we want to see better hosts and more personalities being involved with the Diva Search, especially if it's exclusive to the network. And that's another thing that I come down hard on the Diva Search for, is the fact that it's exclusive to the network where you have to be subscribed. It's a subscription service, so if you're not subscribed to the network, you're obviously not going to be exclusive to the Diva Search, which is a program that airs exclusively on the network. So if you don't have the subscription, you're pretty much locked out of the Diva Search. And back in the day, you weren't locked out of the Diva Search because, as I mentioned, it was just a segment. And what a difference 10 years makes. Because of it being a series on the network now, more people are not seeing it, and as a result, the ratings are down. And the thing is, the heartbreaking thing about all this, the heartbreaking scenario is the ratings could be ultimately higher for something like the Diva Search, and that's something you would expect to get out of the Diva Search, especially with how sexist sold for years with professional wrestling. And it just gets me, why the Diva Search is in this precarious position, this predicament, if you will call it that. I don't really know what to say about the Diva Search, only that it could be a lot better, and there's a lot of room for improvement, but I'm going to leave it up to you guys to give me your opinion and your thoughts on the Diva Search and when you think we could go with this. Where do you think we're headed with this in terms of a creative direction? I wish we were headed in a more creative direction and a more probable direction for the Diva Search, but unfortunately it doesn't seem like we're going to be headed in a more probable direction anytime soon, because it doesn't seem like WWE are putting their fullest potential and their faith into something that you could really go to the distance with, especially with how much talent we have from the cast of the 2015 Diva Search from about 10 years ago, which we did have a lot of talent from in 2004, 2005, but we have way more talent in the 2015 Diva Search than we did 10 years ago, but that talent is not being recognized and or used to its fullest potential, and that's what's really heartbreaking about it. So I can't blame the critics who review wrestling issues all the time coming down hard on the Diva Search, because I'm choosing to do the same thing, and I'll be throwing this video up as a